Hi, I'm Mary Jo Boyd, here with another e-bite from Attorney Computer Systems. Today we're going to talk about tabs 3, and I'm going to talk about a subject that I get quite a bit of questions on. Write up, write down, and write off, and what is the difference between them? So let me show you on our screen what we're going to do, and I'll explain each and every one and when you need to use them. So here I am in tabs, and if I go to I'm going to do this in Client Manager because I can see those things here. I've got my write up and write down, and I've got my write off. You can also get to those from your tabs over here, but I'm going to, for this purpose, just show you that they are here, and I have customized my Client Manager to show those two options. And what you want to do is you want to decide, is this time in WIP or is this AR? That's the first thing that you need to know. If it is in WIP, you're always going to write up and write down. If it's in AR, accounts receivable, you're going to always write it off. You can't write up and write down accounts receivable balances, and you can't write off WIP time because you haven't billed it. So that's the first thing that you have to decide. Do you have AR and do you have or do you have WIP? Writing up and write down is usually used when you're ready to bill and you need to get the time to equal something else. Maybe the attorneys have been putting in their time for months and it's a contingent case. You finally settle the case and you need to write that up or write it down to equal the settlement before you bill. So maybe this fee WIP is $5,000 and you need to write it up to $10,000 because that's what the settlement was. You would use the write up and write down feature. If you needed to write it down to $5,000, maybe you didn't get enough and you had more time in here than you had that you received money for, you can write it down to that amount. You can write down or write up fees or costs or both. It's two separate transactions though. Keep that in mind, that if you wanted to write up and down fees, that's one step, and cost is a second. If I go into this, now I don't have any WIP time on this one, but let me try Scooby-Doo here. Of course I don't. Let me add some real fast. I'm just going to put in some WIP time for $5,000. We'll just make this a test. Say OK. And I have a WIP cost that I will add as well. And we will make that just a $50 cost. And we will go back out. So now I've got some time out here. So if I wanted to write this time up or down, I can click on my write up, write down, and I have an option here to do fees, expenses only, advances only, or both expenses and advances. So if I wanted to start with my fees, I would choose that. And then you can actually write this down by a certain transaction code. Maybe you have to just write down all postage or copies to a certain amount, or a certain timekeeper's fees. This is where you can actually select what you want. You can also do a date range. So if you had to do a certain time frame that you had to write down that time for, you could do that here. You'll notice that this is all grayed out down here. I can't change anything. So I've chosen fees, but I don't have a way to actually change it. You need to actually click on this Calculate Client Total. Once I do that, it will go out and look at how much is out there in fee WIP, and I will have the option then to either reduce it by a percentage. Maybe I want to just reduce this by 10%, or an amount. I want to raise this up or down to 10,000, 5,000, 4,000. Where do I want to put that? Or I can also write up and write down hours. So I could do it by a percentage or by total hours. You might have a case that you're only allowed to bill 10 hours on. This would be a place that you could write that up or down regardless of how much time the attorneys kept track of. So let's say that I want to write this up to $6,000. I say OK. And now it's been complete. If I go back out and look at Client Manager, I can see when I refresh that it is now $6,000. And what that does is it goes out and it automatically adjusts all the time amounts to equal this $6,000 in an equal increment. So if I had 20 entries out here, it would go down and write that up, each individual entry by however many cents it needed to get up to the $6,000 or dollars or whatever it would be. It does not touch the hours worked, so attorneys would still have that productivity total, whether we write it up or down, but it does affect the amount. Same thing with cost. If I wanted to write down the cost, it's the same procedure. But if I needed to split the expenses only or advances only or both, it doesn't matter. Pick what you need to here, but just understand that fees and expenses advances are done separately. So I've written up and down the time. Now I need to come out here and calculate my total. You'll see I've got both expenses and advances checked, so it will let me write that up or write it down. I'll write it down to $25, say okay, and now when I refresh again, it will be written down to $25. Now, when do we use write off? Well, if we had a balance up here in AR, and let me just build this real quick so that I can do that. Of course, I don't remember the number here, so let me find it. It's number 12. And I'm just going to build this real quick. And now we will have, let me update my statement here. There we go. Update. And that is done. Now I've got that, all that time is moved up to AR. And let's say that I need to write off part of this. This could come in handy if you have collection cases that you know you're never going to bill for, or maybe you'll have whatever reason you need to write that time off. Because it's an AR, I can come in here and I can click on my write off. I can either write off the entire balance, that's the first thing that's checked here, and I can give it a date that I want the write off to be effective. So if I only want to write off a portion of this, maybe I just want to write off the cost, or maybe I want to write off just $1,000 worth of the time. I can uncheck that, and you'll see that I have those available now that I can just specify a certain amount that I want to do. So maybe I want to write off $2,500 of this fee, and I want to write off this entire $25 of costs. I can then say okay, and it will write that time off. I can also choose statements. If I say a specific statement, now this client obviously is just going to have the one statement, but I could actually pick a statement that I wanted to write off. I could also choose certain timekeepers. Maybe I only want to write off 1 or 2 timekeepers. I can actually get specific, and I can choose that on there. So if I just go ahead and choose that I want to write this off a certain amount, say okay, it will then go out and it'll make those adjustments immediately, and I can write that client off. Now, I'm not really going to do that. I'm going to end up deleting that for my test purposes, but that's the difference. You use write up, write down in WIP, you use write off in AR, and you can specify your amounts from there. I hope this e-bite has been helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, you can visit our website or give me a call, and I'd be glad to help you. Thank you.